Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at technically two articles. One here, the one that we're actually going to dive into, is from WBIR out of Tennessee. It was written by Jim Matheny, and it was published on July 2nd, updated on July 3rd. Now, what we're going to quickly touch on is another article. It's an opinion piece from the New York Times written by this guy, Nicholas Kristof. And then right here is basically the case that they're saying, we can compel you to wear masks is based on. They're not giving you any context. They're not giving you the history. So I'm going to include this in the description, a link to it from Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute. So anyway, we're going to get into this article, and then we're going to get to a certain point, and then I'll explain a little bit about this to give you context to hear the ruling that they're going to talk about that says that it's constitutional. That's perfectly fine, because it's good to know the historical context of something, especially where the time was brought about, the movement that led to it, things like that. So anyway, we're going to get in. You know what? We'll do this first. This actually makes sense. See, because I want to just quickly address this. And it's just better to do it here. All right. See, what Nicholas is trying to push as a mentality about people not wearing their masks is it's refusing to wear a mask is like driving drunk. Actually, no, it would be more precisely, if you want to use a car analogy, you dipshit. I live in a state where we don't have a mandatory seatbelt law for anyone over 18. It would be more like me getting in my car here in New Hampshire where we don't require them for adults, and deciding not to wear a seatbelt. Okay, it's about personal responsibility, which he's trying to say that you should just conform and wear a mask. That's personal responsibility. You should just wear your mask. No, personal responsibility also is the fact of being willing to take the risk and do it put your life in your own hands and do it knowing the consequences. So, New Hampshire, also a no helmet state. When, I used to, because I still have my motorcycle license, but anyway, when I used to have a motorcycle, because I haven't had one in years, living conditions, it's just not conducive at the time. But don't get me wrong, I'd get another one. But anyway, me going out and riding with my helmet or not riding with my helmet, personal choice. I know that my brain matter can be splattered all over the pavement, but then there's also the case to be made, and it's just probably one that doesn't necessarily make you look good, but it is kind of true. Helmets in a lot of cases in really bad motorcycle wrecks, they only make it so that you look presentable for the funeral, because they can stuff you like the scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz and make you look presentable if your face looks good. But anyway, helmets can save lives on slow accidents, things like that. And I'm sure in some high-speed cases, true too. But if we're talking something where your body's going to get mangled, yeah. So even just riding with a helmet is a matter of taking personal responsibility, because you are at higher risk of injury in an accident. But see, he wants to push this idea that this is about personal responsibility. But you look at how he closes this, which I'm going to show you. It's more about shut up and conform. Do what I say. Anyway, Republicans talk a good game about personal responsibility. It's time for President Trump's supporters to actually display some. Those who are taking their lives in their own hands, deciding not to wear masks, understand the concept of personal responsibility. They understand that they're putting themselves at risk. They understand those consequences. Deal with it. If everyone else is wearing a mask, it shouldn't matter. See, this is about forcing conformance. Anyway, let's get down here. This is the part that I wanted to go through here. But Trump has resisted. Republicans talk a good game about personal responsibility. So it's time for Trump to display some, and to call on his supporters to wear masks as well. As we celebrate our independence, this is how we can show our patriotism, protect the economy, and save the lives of their neighbors. If everyone's social distancing and you're staying away from your neighbors aren't at risk, number one. Number two, this idea of celebrating independence. Hey, let's celebrate our independence by conforming and all putting on masks. This is like lemming type shit. Like, hey, it's patriotism. Let's all jump off a cliff. Seriously. The White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, deflects questions about Trump and masks by insisting that mask wearing is simply a personal choice. Because it is. It is a matter of personal choice. It's a matter of personal responsibility. But see, you don't like that. No, it's not. Refusing to wear a mask is no more a personal choice than is drinking all evening and then stumbling into your car and heading down the road. In a time of plague, shunning a face mask is like driving drunk, putting everyone in your path in danger. No, it's nothing like that. Okay? And stumbling drunk into a car and deciding to drive home still is a personal choice. Is it a correct one? Probably not. Is it the smart thing to do? Was it a smart choice? Probably not, but it is still a matter of personal choice. It's against the law. See, this is the thing. You want to talk about, well, personal choice. It's against the law. You still have the choice to do it, whether or not you get caught, whether or not you get prosecuted, whether or not you cause the injury or death of someone else. In the case of this, example, all right, that's separate from the personal choice. We are allowed to make choices, whether they're good, bad, legal, or other, legal, illegal, or whatever else the case may be. And for you to be like, hey, let's celebrate our independence by all putting on masks, like we're fucking lemmings, is disgusting. It does not show patriotism or celebration of what this nation was founded on, our independence. It does not represent that. So you do this Orwellian bullshit of, hey, let's put on masks to celebrate our nation's independence. And you think that people can't figure out that it's Orwellian shit. So anyway, I wanted to get in. This was the main reason for this video. Because they're trying to use this law, or this Supreme Court ruling, I should say, to just go, well, shut up, it's constitutional, wear your mask. But they leave out the context, they leave out everything involved, they leave out the history with this ruling. They leave out what it has led to with other rulings. And it goes to show that this was not necessarily a good ruling done at a time when, let's just say progressives, the early progressives, and the progressive movement was moving across the country, which the progressive movement had people who were into it on both sides back then to an extent, including on the courts, which is what led to this ruling. Anyway, let's get into this here, because with Tennessee saying this, with this from the NBC affiliate there in I think it's Knoxville, I just had to address this. Verify. Requiring masks does not violate your constitutional rights. We spoke to a constitutional law professor and a Republican state lawmaker about whether mandates to wear masks violate your rights, which it's funny. I wonder how many Republican state reps, okay, or state senators they had to go through before they found this guy. I'm wondering on that one. I truly am. Anyway, let's see what Jim here has to say. Is it a violation of your constitutional rights for the government to order you to wear masks indoors during a COVID-19 pandemic? The constitutionality question was raised Wednesday by Knox County's law director and sheriff after the Knox County Board of Health approved a mandate that requires people wear masks indoors in public spaces, with some exceptions based on age, health conditions, and places of worship. See, they don't like it when, those people that they feel should be doing what they want them to do, like sheriffs who are elected to represent the people, they don't like when that happens. They don't like when us masses go against what they want. They don't like it when anyone in the system goes against what they want. So, of course, because this sheriff did this, this local NBC affiliate had to go out there and say, well, it's constitutional. Just shut the fuck up and put your mask on and deal with it. When they leave out the context, the history, and everything else, because if you knew the Supreme Court ruling that they were going back to and what it has led to in this country, you would understand why maybe the Supreme Court might want to relook at the whole situation and go, holy fucking shit, because it's vile. This ruling led to so much shit that it's ridiculous. On the note of like bad precedent. So anyway, but health conditions in places of worship. Knox County Sheriff Tom Spangler stated, serious questions on the constitutionality are strong enough that his deputies will not enforce the order by the Board of Health. And they don't like this. Because, see, they want to rule this one thing of like vaccinations as an example for masks. Anyway, to verify if requirements to wear masks violate the Constitution, 10 News discussed the topic with law professor Stuart Harris and Republican State Senator Richard Briggs. Harris teaches constitutional law at Lincoln Memorial University's Duncan School of Law in Knoxville, and if he teaches constitutional law, a lot of constitutional scholars kind of say that this Supreme Court ruling is a little fucked up. All right, because of what it's led to and how it's been used and everything else. So, yeah, let's go to the guy who thinks it's a good thing. And then Senator Briggs, so he's the University of Duncan School in Knoxville. Senator Briggs is a longtime heart and lung surgeon with expertise in medical field in addition to his knowledge as a lawmaker. Well, then he should be looking at like what the California doctors said about the results and everything else. And, you know, the fact that a lot of people now that we're doing the antibody tests, we're finding that a lot more people were infected and everything else, and actually let his, medical training overrule his emotions on this, I think, because I have a feeling there's an emotional, like superiority complex type of thing going on here. Like, where he's like, oh, well, who is good? Who is good? Ignore the other doctors who have actual research type of shit. Anyway. Harris said the answer is clear-cut when questioned whether a requirement to wear masks is a violation of anyone's constitutional rights. No, answered Harris, it's just not. The Supreme Court of the United States, 115 years ago, in a case called Jacobson v. Massachusetts, clearly stated that the government has something called police power, which allows it to protect the health and welfare of its people. See, now what's funny is there's no context about this Supreme Court case. And I actually had looked at this one before. And when they brought this one up, what was it, a couple months ago in another article or something like that, I had to relook it up because I remember this actually kind of had like on the note of like, vaccination in a historical context. I had come across it, studying history, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't there a thing of he had a choice? So I looked it up, and it's funny, the Wikipedia article actually talked about the choice, but it looks like it might have been recently edited because he was given a choice, Jacobson. All right, this is where we're going to get into this. Okay, Henning Jacobson, PLLFF, v. Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Okay, basically what it was this guy immigrated. I can't remember the country, but he immigrated from Europe, and as a child, he was given a smallpox vaccination. He had a bad reaction to the vaccine, and he had other bad reactions to vaccines. So what ended up happening was he said, me and my kid are not going to get the vaccination. So they took him to court, all right, and he was given a choice. Take the free vaccine, you and your kid, or we're going to throw you in prison until you pay $5, the $5 fine. Because he was basically originally given the $5 fine or get the vaccine. He said, well, I ain't going to pay the fine. He said, okay, well, I'll throw you in jail. The judge said, I'll throw you in jail until you pay the $5 fine. Now, this was a kangaroo court, mind you, because they would not allow him, the judge would not allow him to put in any evidence in his defense. Everything that he put in, the judge ruled inconsequential what's the word I'm looking for? Irrelevant. That would probably be the most accurate word. So the judge made all these rulings and basically made it so he had absolutely no defense. Now, you have this guy, he's like, look, I had a bad reaction to the vaccine already, because it was the mandate was you had in Cambridge was vaccinate or revaccinate. So you didn't have a choice. If you had already been vaccinated, they were going to revaccinate you anyways. And he's like, look, I've already been vaccinated. I had a bad reaction. Had medical testimony. He had experts, and they told him all of that's inconsequential. So he could not mount a legal defense. So he said, well, I'm not paying the fine. Fuck you, basically. What ends up happening is he fights it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, at the time that this happened was the early stages of the first beginnings of the progressive era. All right. And it actually was like kind of a left-right, not specific type thing. You had people on both sides of the false paradigm that were progressives back then, or supposedly progressive or whatever else. So you had this rule from a progressive standpoint, and the justices looked at it this way. They were ruling on the fact of whether they could fine him or, like, you know, if he didn't get the vaccination. So basically they ruled on the fact that, hey, he had the option to pay the fine. It's like the idea of Obamacare with fucking neocon shitbag. Roberts. Okay, with Obamacare. Well, you don't have to get insurance, but you got to pay the tax, the penalty bullshit. This is how that kind of was ruled, okay? Because they looked at it and said, oh, well, he could just pay the fine. It's a tax. And that's how they justified, you know, the ruling that they gave. Well, this is the ruling from 115 years ago, brought on by progressive bullshit that they're referring back to. The same exact fucking ruling that, because of progressives, because, see, progressives weren't always these nice fucking people supposedly back then, all right? You know, progressives were like Margaret Sanger, who believed in the fact of sterilizing people because they were, you know, seen as simple-minded, okay? Which, it was not like there was like a definition for simple-minded. If the fucking, you know, government decided you were simple-minded, guess what? You're getting fucking sterilized. Oh, you're retarded? You're getting sterilized. Oh, you're normal. You actually have a high IQ, but your parents were simple-minded? Oh, you're getting sterilized too. This is what this ruling led to, okay? It led to another case where it was like, okay, the government can do this. Now, on Wikipedia, they completely rephrased it. They made it so it's the retarded, okay, when they talk about it down towards the bottom of the article. It was more than just the retarded. It was like the children of people who they thought were simple-minded, you know, which simple-minded was just a term for if they thought you were stupid, which there was no legal standard for it. But you could get ruled simple-minded and have your fucking tubes tied or your nuts clipped or whatever else. That's what this led to. So now they're using the same early progressive shit that led to the things that they wanted back then, which was like the eugenics fucking shit. They're now using it to try to compel, you know, say, oh, well, wear the masks. Well, maybe we should have the Supreme Court revisit this, because clearly, okay, when this was brought on by the early progressive fucking cancer, and it's led to atrocities like, oh, the forced sterilization of people because maybe their parents might have been quote unquote simple-minded, all right, because, oh, they're the children of them, or hell, they even used it for the fact of if they thought your parents were bad seeds, okay, they would sterilize you under the same fucking laws, okay, that were deemed by the second Supreme Court ruling built off of that one, okay? They would get away with that shit. Then this also led to Roe v. fucking Wade. Somehow, okay? It's really weird. Roe v. Wade, there's like some of it applies to Roe v. Wade, but another ruling makes it so that you can supposedly do whatever the fuck you want to your body, even though you're you're basically murdering a fucking baby. So this law is completely fucked. This ruling, I should say. And this is what they're saying, well, shut the fuck up and wear your masks with. That's some scary shit. In 1905, Jacobson case, the Supreme Court ruled Massachusetts was within its rights to require all citizens to get a vaccination for smallpox or pay a $5 fine, which I already went through. The United States Supreme Court has said it is reasonable to strap people down and inject them with vaccines in a time of public health crisis. If that is true, and it is, then it is certainly reasonable and it is certainly constitutional to mandate that the people wear masks in public, said Harris. Well, first off, fucking asshole, Harris, you don't know what you're talking about, because there was nothing about strapping the man down and forcefully fucking vaccinating him, you dishonest piece of shit. This is a guy who's supposed to be a fucking lawyer, okay? He teaches fucking law. This asshole honestly thinks that that's what the ruling was about, strapping you down on a table. No, it was, we're going to throw you in jail until you pay the $5 fine. That's what this was over. It was never about strapping someone to a table. So maybe Harris shouldn't be teaching law, because, I mean, hell, I'm going to include this, you know, from the Cornell law in there. And it tells you exactly that it was, you pay the $5 or you're going to jail until you do. There's nothing about strapping people to a table. This is dishonest fucking shit. This is the type of propaganda we get going on because they don't like the fact that people in Tennessee are going, fuck you, And the law enforcement, the sheriff who's supposed to represent the people's going, fuck you. I don't see this as constitutional. And they're going with a ruling that led to the whole eugenics fucking shit in this country. That's the type of people these scumbags are. They should know. I mean, I would think Harris would know full well, being a law professor who should understand the history of the law, would know what it led to, and led to the fucking eugenics fucking movement being legal and forcefully sterilizing people in this goddamn fucking country. I'm sorry, but this is just ridiculous shit. And yes, my language is part of my shtick. All the filters are off right now. I really just don't give 2 bits of a damn. I really don't. I mean, because this is ridiculous. Senator Briggs also cited that Jacobson ruling as a clear legal precedent for the government to implement restrictions for public health. Yes, but the restriction was get the vaccination or pay the fine, which you still didn't have to get vaccinated. So there was no forced strap you down to a fucking table compelled vaccination. It was get a free vaccination or pay $5 and not pay the fine. That's what the situation was. People say I have the constitutional right to go where I want and not to wear a mask, and that is absolutely incorrect. The Supreme Court said you can have a mandatory vaccinations and the government can do what it is needed to protect the public health and the public welfare. No, it actually ruled that, they could do that, but there was an out. It was like the idea of Roberts with the Obamacare fucking tax bullshit with the penalty. Because there was a $5 fine. There was nothing about pay the $5 and then get strapped to a fucking table and vaccinated. Sorry, that's not what you're actually talking about here. They can't compel you. They can tell you to do it or pay a fine. That's what that Supreme Court case was, and I'm surprised no one has actually pushed that issue with this. They can quarantine people coming into the country. Yes. Foreigners, in general. It's hard for them to do it with Americans, but foreigners are not American citizens. That's how they are able to do it with foreigners. They can quarantine people in the country. Yes, after a fucking court order. It's not like they can just quarantine them. They have to fucking get a court order. They have to have a judge sign off on the person being forcibly detained for a fucking quarantine. Wow. And they can require certain public health measures. And if it's in the public's interest. Yes, but you're basing this shit on a progressive bullshit law, okay, that led to many atrocities in this fucking country. Constitutionally, you can't go wherever you want to. Try driving on the wrong side of the interstate. That isn't literally going where you want to, you stupid fuck. Bad analogy. Okay, being able to get on said interstate, okay, with the flow of traffic and get from point A to point B would be the example that would destroy your thing, okay? Because this going where I want doesn't mean, I'm going to go on the wrong way on a highway or this or that. It means I should be able to travel freely from point A to point B or any point in between or wherever the hell I want to go without being stopped by the government. It's guaranteed in the Constitution. Asshole. Major asshole. Try running a red light because you don't want to. Again, bullshit example. Does not apply because you can travel freely and still follow the laws of the land. This is what, like these type of laws of the land, like the type with, like, say, traffic and stuff like that, because it isn't a constitutional right to fucking drive a car. Okay, being able to travel freely, unmolested on your person, in your person. That is, you idiot. You can't do that because it's not in public health, welfare, and interest to do that, said Briggs. That makes absolutely no sense. Briggs has got to be a fucking idiot. I don't know how the hell he became a doctor. That makes absolutely no sense. He doesn't have a valid argument with any of those things. This does not mean the government can do whatever it wants during a public health crisis. Harris said any requirements must be reasonable. There are restrictions the courts struck down in Kentucky because it prevented people from going to drive-through church services. That restriction was unreasonable based on the fact you could drive to other locations. The order has to be reasonable. In the case of the mask requirement in Knoxville, it was passed by the Board of Health by a vote of 7-1. The members who voted on it stated clear and compelling reasons for voting to mandate masks indoors, said Harris. Well, here's the thing. It's a slippery slope. What is reasonable? Here you are, you're supposed to be a Republican. Who are they to dictate what goes on in a house of God? Separation of church and state. Do I think churches possibly should look at the fact of maybe not packing packing them into the rafters? Yeah. But they should be allowed to do what they want, make their own choices, and the government stay the fuck out of it. And here you are going, oh, well, drive-through church services. What about them, out on a big field, 6, 8, 10 feet apart? You gonna have a problem with that? Even if they're all wearing masks? Of course he probably would. I mean, this guy Briggs just seems like the fucking type. He really does. Based on the expertise of a constitutional law professor, as well as a lawmaker who's a surgeon, we can verify the Constitution allows governments to require masks during COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, but you leave out context to go, oh, it's real cut and dry, you sleazy, scummy piece of shit. Wow. However, Harris added an interesting caveat that is likely within the sheriff's rights to avoid enforcing the order because if he's elected, as opposed to police chiefs who are generally appointed, the sheriff, who's an elected official himself, has wide discretion on which laws he's going to enforce. And so it is probably within his constitutional authority to not enforce this. So what happens then? Because he is independently elected, I think the only real remedy would be the ballot box, said Harris. So there's a lot of different legal issues gurgling to the top here. This is what's funny. All right. This guy is supposed to be a constitutional scholar. He don't like the fact that the sheriff is using his constitutionally guaranteed power of choice of enforcement of laws to go against this. Well, we should just vote him out. Well, clearly he's doing what the people of his county want him to do. But you want those people to shoot themselves in the foot and vote him out. You have a guy who looks at this and goes, well, it doesn't seem constitutional to me. Which, minus that one fucking ruling that led to atrocities in this nation, okay, Jacobson versus Commonwealth of Massachusetts here, minus that one fucking ruling, it would be completely unconstitutional. But this was done during the back in the days of the progressive fucking bullshit where they went, well, independent liberty and individual freedom, that's just a bad thing. We got to have more of the state dictating. That's what the progressive movement is about. That's what it's always been about, because it's for the betterment of everybody else. So basically that's what they're basing all this shit on. And it's disgusting. Yeah, how about you report on the fact, you sleazebags over at NBC fucking 10? How about you report on the fact that the law that quote-unquote makes it constitutional led to the constitutionality of fucking atrocities being committed in this country, like the forced sterilization of fucking people because, their mother's, sisters, cousins, brothers, aunts, nieces, nephew was a fucking simpleton, so they're a simpleton too. Or if they were born on the wrong side of the tracks and they were bad seeds, deemed by the courts they could be fucking sterilized. That's what this ruling led to. Another Supreme Court ruling that led to that, because it was the foundation for that second ruling. This is the type of shit that they're forcing on us. It's comply or fucking, it's basically, show your independence, show your support of being an independent, nation fighting for our independence to be able to do what you want. Just shut the fuck up and put your mask on to show it. That's how you show, your support of this country. It's the same type of bullshit like that they push with like September 11th. Okay, with the fact of showing your support. And it was like, the idea of, you can support the troops. Well, yeah, you can support the troops, but you had Bush and others trying to co-opt that, like Cheney, to make it look like this country supported the war. It's no different. Anyway, yeah, I've covered this well enough. I'm going to leave things here.
If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.